Hi everyone, so you are really welcome to our Digital Tools to Support Your Study Academic Skills workshop. So the purpose of this workshop really is to make you aware of some free digital tools that are available to all students in UCD that might help to enhance your study and make your life a wee bit easier. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking a wee bit about how we can embed technology into our study skills in an easy and effective way. And then I'm going to be going over some tools. So I'm going to be looking at tools built into Brightspace and then tools available on the UCD All website. So if you want to just skip to the tech bit, we have segmented this video. So you can pick the bits that are most relevant to you if you don't have time to sit around for the full workshop. So our objectives with this workshop, as I said, are to identify digital tools to support our reading and writing, and then find ways to integrate these tools into our own unique learning toolkits. And you'll see on the screen here, I've got a colorful explosion with the term +1. And really what I mean by this is, what's one thing that you can take away from this workshop and do today? So we're looking for quick and easy wins. It might be that you want to completely revamp your study skills, and you're well within your rights to do that. But it can sometimes be better to do that one wee step at a time. So as we're going through this workshop, I'm really hoping that you'll be able to pick one thing that you can try today, and keep building these up. Okay. So we all have our own learning toolkits, okay? And university is really about developing that toolkit. So maybe when you first came into college, you knew that you liked studying with mind maps. Now you might also know that you like working off PowerPoints, or you like revising from past exam papers, okay? So part of university is actually learning to learn. So you might have the content of your degree program, so all the reading that you have to do, but within that you're also learning what we would call soft skills or academic skills. So maybe you're also learning how to structure an argument, or you're learning how to reference material, or you're learning how to prepare data. So within your degree program, absolutely there is the content, but then there's also the skills that go with it. And what we're asking you to do in this first part of the workshop is to think about what's already in your learning toolkit. What do you already know about yourself? So how do you like to process information? Do you need to write it down? Do you prefer to type it? Do you need to explain it to someone else? How do you retain information? So maybe you use mnemonics, maybe you use flashcards, maybe you like to record yourself. Lots of different ways to retain information. And then how do you like to express your ideas? So do you like to maybe draw pictures? Do you like to do presentations? What way do you express yourself? And really, with all of these skills, what we're looking for is ways that you like to learn. And it is actually important that you enjoy the learning process. So it's not necessarily about learning styles. So those were debunked in the education sector in the 90s, but we do definitely have learning preferences. So we have ways and means that we like to learn. And sometimes it's important to actually play to these strengths. So if you know that you're going to enjoy listening to information more than reading it, great, let's find ways to help you to do that. So I'd like you to take, if you have a wee bit of time, just to take 5 minutes and jot down answers to these questions. How do you process information? How do you retain it? How do you express your ideas? Think about how you like to learn. Okay. Of course, there's lots of different factors that go into to how we learn. And part of that is balance the time that we actually have available and the resources that we have available. So lots of different things can impact our learning. And it's important to recognize that along with being students, we're lots of other things. So maybe we are someone who's working, maybe we're parenting, maybe we're caring for others. You know, we have so many other things going on in our lives, and it's important to find that balance and to take stock and to acknowledge that it's not always possible to sit for 4 hours in the evening in the library. So how do we actually make the most of the time and the resources that we have available, and how do we fit that into our learning plans? So as I said, all sorts of factors that will be affecting your learning. So maybe you're on work, maybe you're on placement, maybe you have care and responsibilities, maybe you're commuting. So a lot of us are commuting these days. It's important to recognize it's tiring. It takes a lot of time. So how can we make life a wee bit easier and use technology to support that? Tiredness and concentration. So maybe some of us are managing disabilities, or again, maybe we're just tired because it's a busy period in our lives. And I think it's important to stress that the point of this workshop isn't to say you should be prioritizing your learning. It's important to remember that we are all human beings, okay? So yes, your degree is important, but you are a person outside of UCD and you do have other things going on. So this, I promise, is the only cliche that I will use during this entire workshop. But really what we're trying to do is to work smarter, not harder. So sometimes when we decide that we want to really recommit to our study and try really hard, we think that means burning ourselves out. We think that means staying up to 3 a.m. We think that means staying glued to the desk until the essay is done. And certainly there will be times in your degree where you maybe do have to dig deep. But at the same time, we want to find sustainable study habits. And that's part of the purpose of this workshop, is to find wee tools that can make your life that wee bit easier, that can play to your strengths, that can enhance your learning. Okay. So the tools I'm going to be talking about today, and remember the +1 mantra, what's one thing that we can do today? Okay. Really quick, easy things that are going to be accessible to you and available as soon as you leave this workshop. So timers. We've then got Ally, which is available in Brightspace. We've got SensusAccess, which is available on the UCD All website. And then we've also got the Microsoft suite. So I'm hoping all of you have taken advantage of your free Microsoft license. If not, you can go do that today. So you have a free download of Microsoft Office that gives you your PowerPoint, your Word, your Excel, all available to you, your OneNote, and you can either access that via your browser, or you can also download the software, the full software suite onto your computer, and that's available through the UCD IT Services website. So this is a really simple thing, but timers are incredibly useful, okay? So we're all human beings. We all have limited concentration, okay? So most of us, although we might like to think otherwise, we can't actually concentrate for a full 60 minutes, okay? So what we can try to do is to optimize our concentration. So there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, really straightforward. All you're going to do is set a timer for 20 minutes, and then you're going to set another timer for 10 minutes. So working 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, okay? And you can adjust that depending on your concentration. So you might find that actually you can only work for 15 minutes and then you need 7 minutes off, okay? And what we're doing here is we're making a wee promise to ourselves. We're saying, right, I am going to focus for 20 minutes and then I'm going to stop. And what you'll actually find is in taking that break, you're giving yourself a chance to process the information that you've just been working on. So maybe you're trying to read a journal article. You're going to work for 20 minutes and then you're going to stop. And you might actually find that when you come back to it, you've retained more information than you thought. You've processed and digested that information. When we're working on big projects like essays, can sometimes feel like it's all consuming. And what can actually happen is we start to lose time. We start to have diminishing returns because we're not taking breaks. We're not giving ourselves a gap to think about other things and to come back to it. It's really helpful to actually set time limits on your tasks, okay? So you might have one module that you find really hard. Don't forget that you do have others that you need to be working on. So sometimes it can be good to say, right, I have 3 days that I'm going to work on this essay, and to make yourself that agreement that this is my time for this project, and then I'm moving on to something else. So sometimes it's important to remember that perfect is done. So actually just getting the essay done, it might not be the best essay in the world, but it's finished. Okay. So loads of ways that we can use timers. So a great app that I use is called Focus To Do. It's free. And it actually helps you to break down projects into tasks. So the likes of an essay, you can break that down into the reading that you're going to do for it. So you might say, okay, I'm going to do 6 timers worth of reading. Then I'm going to write my introduction. I'm going to give myself 2 timers for that. So it can help you break down big tasks into manageable chunks. You've then got apps such as Cold Turkey, which you can use to block other websites as well. So maybe you have a tendency to go down YouTube rabbit holes. You can block YouTube for an hour whilst you're doing other things. And then there's also the likes of the Forest app as well. So it makes a promise to plant trees for the time that you are not touching your phone. So it's a good way of stopping yourself from the endless scroll. So 2 new tools that have arrived in UCD are SensusAccess and Ally. And these are tools that allow us to use alternative formats. So what we mean by that is it allows you to convert files into different formats. So maybe you have a Word document, but you actually prefer to listen to information. You can convert it to an MP3 audio file. Maybe you are on placement and you want to check some notes from a lecture. You can convert a PowerPoint to HTML, which means it'll display a wee bit better on your phone. So there are lots of reasons and times when we might use files in an alternative format. So for instance, maybe we're working between devices. So you're not actually working on your laptop, you're using a mobile device. It might be easier for you to use HTML, as I mentioned. Maybe for accessibility purposes. So maybe you use read aloud software or you use magnification software. You might find it easier to work in a different file format. So maybe you need a tagged PDF. It's no preference. So as we said at the start, we all have different ways that we like to learn. So maybe you work best from audio. Maybe you work best when your text is in different colors. Maybe you need dyslexia-friendly fonts. You might convert your files for those reasons. Maybe you use assistive technology. So maybe you use a Braille reader or a screen reader, in which case you would need Braille files or you would need HTML. And maybe you're trying to save time. So maybe you are commuting and you want to be able to listen to journal articles on the go rather than having to work off your laptop. Or maybe you prefer to read off your Kindle. So you would want an EPUB file. So I'm going to actually show you the tools now. But in Brightspace, we have Ally. So any materials that your lecturer has posted up, you can then download them as a tagged PDF, an MP3, HTML, Braille, Beeline Reader, which is a tool that I'll show you, EPUB, so it would be for like your Kindle, and then Immersive Reader, which is another tool that I'm going to demonstrate, and it's used for listening to notes. And then we've got SensusAccess. So that would be for material that isn't currently on your Brightspace. So maybe you're doing your own reading for a project, or you've got, you find a journal article that you'd like to convert. And it does a lot more file types than Ally. So it does the likes of Word, rich text formats. It can convert images to text. So if you take a photo of a library book, it can extract the text and put it into a readable format. It does EPUBs again, and it also does Mobi if you have an older Kindle. It does Daisy audiobooks, and it also does the Beeline Reader as well. So I'm going to come out of this and I'm going to show you what it actually looks like. Firstly, Ally on Brightspace. Okay, so right now I am in our All Student Supports Brightspace module, and this is a really great resource. So on here, you can find all our academic skills workshops recordings. You can also find interactive workshops on skills like note-taking, time management, writing skills. So this is available to all UCD students, and it's handy just to have and to be able to dip in and out. You can find it on Brightspace just by searching All Student Supports. So I'm going to scoot down here and I'm going to show you exactly what Ally looks like. So you might have spotted it already, but basically anywhere that you have learning materials posted, you'll see this A with a down arrow. So this is a symbol for Ally, and depending on the type of file, you'll then be able to see the alternative formats available. So this is a PowerPoint file, and you can see I've got tagged PDF. So maybe if you're someone who uses Notability or GoodNotes or OneNote, maybe you use a tablet and you want to be able to write over your lecture slides. It's a really handy resource, tagged PDF. HTML, so that's what I was saying about if you're on placement or you're trying to view files on your phone. EPUB, so that would be, again, the likes of ebook readers like a Kindle, electronic braille. Audio, so if you like to listen to your materials. Beeline Reader, which is a tool for faster on-screen reading, and then Immersive Reader. So you would just select the one you want and you hit download, and you'll get your alternative files. So in true Blue Peter fashion, I already downloaded some of these. So the first one I am going to show you is the Immersive Reader. So some of you might be familiar with this if on your Microsoft Word, but Immersive Reader is a tool that was developed by Microsoft Learning team. It was initially designed for folk with dyslexia, but really it's helpful for anyone. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to read my text to me. So you see I've got a play button here, and if I hit that,
Note-taking, UCD access and lifelong learning.
you can see it's going to read the slides to me. What I've got here then is the different voice settings. So I can change the speed. I can also change the voice. So I've got female or I've got male. I could change my font. So I've got my text preferences. So maybe you need bigger text, or you like more space in between your lines, or you have different font preferences. Some folk find that it's easier for them to read off a colored background. So I can change this to yellow, and there's other options here. I've then got my reading preferences, so I can change my line focus. So maybe you find it easier to read line by line. So I'm just using my arrow keys here to change the breadth, and then I can slide this up and down as I'm reading. And this is available under the View tab in your Microsoft Word as well. So it's a nice wee read aloud tool. It's particularly good if you have a lot of reading to do. So if you've maybe got journal articles up, or maybe you've got an extract from a textbook that you need to read through, really handy wee tool. So the other feature that I'm going to demonstrate on Ally is called Beeline Reader. And this is a tool, it uses a color gradient and it's designed to help you to read faster off screen and off screens and to improve your concentration. So the color gradient basically guides your eyes across the words. So there's actually been testing done with the Beeline Reader over in UC Berkeley, and they found it was particularly helpful for folk with ADHD, where there can sometimes be a tendency to skip words. It's also helpful for folk with dyslexia, again, where you might find that the words are scooting around. So at the top of the screen here, you can see that I've got different color options. So I can change my color gradients. There's night mode as well. So if any of you use that on your phone, you can also use that on the Beeline Reader. And this is also available then on SensusAccess as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to just take some of this and I'm going to scoot across to SensusAccess. So SensusAccess is on the UCD All website, and it's for materials that you've sourced yourself rather than materials that have been posted directly to Brightspace, and it more or less does the same thing as Ally. So you can access SensusAccess just by going to ucd.ie/SensusAccess, or it is linked on the UCD All homepage as well. So it's a 4-step web form. On here, you have different sources. So you can either upload a file, you can copy and paste a URL. So if you find a journal article, now do just bear in mind, if it is behind a paywall, or if it is proprietary material. So sometimes if it's from the library, you might not be able to convert it directly from the URL or indeed from the file itself if it's password protected. And then you have the option of text as well. So I'm going to just paste in a wee bit of text just from that last PowerPoint, just to actually show you what this looks like. And I'm going to upload it. I've uploaded it, and you can see then that I have got my target format. So the formats depend on what you actually upload. So in this case, I have the option of converting to MP3, I have the option of Braille, and I have the option of an ebook. Now, if I had uploaded the likes of a Word file, I would have more options. So let's do that, and we'll just show you what that looks like. So you can see I have uploaded a Word file, and I've got way more choices here. So I've got MP3 audio, I've got daisies, that's type of audio book, I've got Braille, I've got ebooks, I've got an accessibility conversion, and I've got Beeline Reader. So that's what you also have in Brightspace. So I'm going to show you the accessibility conversion, because what happens here is it's going to give me all different types of files. So I've got a Windows text, or I've got a tagged PDF. So I'm going to go for my tagged PDF. And then what I would do here is just pop in my UCD email address. It's really important that you use your UCD Connect email address, okay? It won't work for any other type of email address. And what will happen is it will email this material back to you converted, okay? Now, if you upload a really chunky file, it will take a wee bit longer to return it to you, okay? So just keep in mind, the bigger the file, the longer it's going to take. And I should say this does work with different languages as well. So if you're maybe trying to work a wee bit on your French pronunciation, it's not a bad idea to upload articles and listen to them as MP3. Same if you're trying to work on your listening skills for any of your exams, it can do that for you. It's also good with math as well. So it does recognize math scripts. So just keep that in mind. And we're going to then head back to the presentation. Okay. So what I've got on this screen then is just a wee summary on how we might use alternative formats. Now, there's loads of options here, but for things like commuting, we might consider lecture notes to an MP3 on your phone. So if you were to convert either via SensusAccess or to download from Ally. If you have a Brightspace app, you can download directly on your phone and play from that. Otherwise, you might consider popping it in the likes of your Google Drive, which of course you get for free with your UCD email account. You might consider PowerPoint slides as HTML on a phone or a tablet. And again, you might consider a PDF to an EPUB for your Kindle. Can sometimes be a wee bit easier to read off that, particularly if you're on a bus or a train. For flexibility, we might want to change our slides to PDFs for working on OneNote or Notability. We might also want to change from a PDF to an EPUB. So maybe you want to change to a dyslexia-friendly font, or you want to enlarge your text, you can do that. And then we might also use alternative formats just to assist our concentration. So sometimes a change can be as good as a rest. So it might be that you want to get away from the screen and you want to go for a wee walk and listen to your notes, or maybe you want to go sit in a different place and you want to work off your tablet instead of your laptop. Or maybe you want to try out the Beeline reader or the immersive reader. Again, just to try different learning tools and different ways of doing things. The likes of the screen masking on the immersive reader can be really handy for getting through a really wordy article. And with that in mind, I also just want to then show you a writing tool. So I'm going to show you what Immersive Reader actually looks like in Microsoft Word and how you might use that to support your writing. Okay. Okay, so what I've got here, and it's not very exciting, is just the beginning of an ethics application. Okay. And what I'm going to do is show you how I would use Immersive Reader to work on this. So if I go to my View tab, you can see I've got the option of Immersive Reader. Okay, and it's very similar to what you have on Brightspace. So we've got the text space and functions. We've got the option of changing our background color. We've got the read aloud. So sometimes, particularly if you've been working on a document for a long time, it can be good to actually just listen to it. And that's how you tend to discover things like you've gotten overtired and a paragraph has become one sentence. Okay, so it's good for checking your punctuation and getting rid of run-on sentences. It's also good for sometimes you'll find that you thought you typed one thing and you've actually typed something else. So for finding spelling mistakes, it can be very handy. It can be handy for if you have dyslexia and you sometimes find that your words jump around a wee bit and they're not where you thought they were. It can be good just for actually listening and making sure that something makes sense. So really handy proofreading tool. You can also then use it if you're wanting to just focus on one particular wee bit of an essay for using your reading ruler there. So it's quite a handy proofreading tool. You've then also in Microsoft Word, the other feature I wanted to show you is the dictation function. Okay, so sometimes a nice way of actually getting started on an essay can be just to talk your way through it. Okay, so it might not be your best draft, but sometimes it's better to edit than to sit with nothing in front of you. So for some students, I would suggest voice typing as a nice wee way of actually getting past writer's block and just getting words on the page. Also, if you find that you have sore wrists or if you find that you're getting uncomfortable typing, voice typing can be really handy. Similarly, if you're doing any kind of qualitative data or research and you've maybe been doing a focus group or you've got a lot of feedback or you've got an interview transcript, sometimes it's easier to read it aloud rather than to sit trying to type everything out. So in this case, you might also consider using the dictate function. And actually for interviews in particular, if you've got an interview recording, if you use the Word online, you actually have the option of uploading an MP3 and it'll do a transcript for you. Now, it won't be perfect, but it'll give you something to edit. So that's also just something to have a wee think about. So thank you for joining this workshop. I'm just going to remind you of what our objectives were. So we were looking to identify digital tools to support our reading and writing. So we now have the alternative formats in Ally and also SensusAccess. We have our writing tools in Microsoft Word, and we also just have our old school timers to help with our concentration and our planning tasks. And I hope I've given you some ideas on how you might integrate these into your own learning preferences and your own routines. So try and have a wee think about what your +1 is going to be going forward. If you have any questions at all about these tools, please do email me. So you can get me on emily.smith@ucd.ie. And I wish you the best of luck with your studies.